Hey, what is up you guys? It's your girl Margo here, back again with another video, and today I thought that I would do a Earth Day video because today is Earth Day and it is probably one of my favorite days out of the whole year, being a sustainability major and all. Let's get right into the video. Basically, my dad sent me this article this morning from the New York Times that was called 50 Years of Earth Day, What's Better Today and What's Worse. It was written by these two men who are very knowledgeable about climate change as far as I can read from their biography. So, there were some very good points in this article that I wanted to kind of touch on because I think it's important. First things first, some background. Basically, for those of you that don't know, our Earth is kind of going through something right now called climate change. There are two different things that people are kind of getting confused about, especially because of the media coverage on it, which is the difference between climate change and global warming. Basically, climate change is this thing that the Earth naturally goes through every couple hundred years. There's evidence that we've already been through it twice in the Earth's lifetime, so once during the Ice Age and then again sometime in between then and now. And basically that just means that, you know, during the Ice Age the ice was melting and the land bridges came up and it was just a change in the climate. It wasn't anything big. It was just something that happened naturally. And the other thing was global warming, which is something that people like using climate change as the word more than global warming because of the political context of it. So global warming is something a lot harder to explain than climate change, which is basically having to do with the greenhouse effect. And for those of you who don't know, I'll probably put a graphic up on the screen of it. Global warming is essentially when sun rays permeate the ozone layer. And when they come into the ozone layer, they have a couple of options. One, they can go down to the Earth's surface and come back and bounce off and come back up to the ozone layer and leave through the ozone layer. Get lost in space, gone forever. The other option is that some of those rays get absorbed by the Earth's surface. When sun touches your skin, you get tan because the sun rays burn your skin, essentially. The problem is when humans release greenhouse gases, which are carbon dioxide and a couple of other ones that, I mean, there's so many of them that I really can't list them all off, but essentially they're given off by our everyday practices. By driving a car, you're releasing greenhouse gases. The engine in your car is using up energy and releasing that into the atmosphere as greenhouse gases. Factories use energy and then release the rest as greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases are really just a byproduct of the energies that we use every single day. So you're probably saying to yourself, well, there's really nothing we can do about that. Well, essentially there's a few things that we can do about it. A being switching over to renewable resources like solar, wind, and water power, which all have pros and cons of their own, but solar being the most commonly used. And essentially when those greenhouse gases get thrown up into the atmosphere, they get trapped, right? Because they can't go into space because of the atmospheric levels, so they just get trapped in that bubble. And when we start adding to that ozone layer, it gets harder and harder for those sun rays to escape back into space. So that means that they only have one place to go, which is come down into the atmosphere, bounce off the Earth, bounce off all the greenhouse gases that we're putting into the atmosphere, and then go back down to Earth. Since that's now a double layer of sunlight that is hitting the Earth, what happens when all of that sunlight is hitting the Earth? The Earth is going to warm the same way that your coffee warms when you put it in the microwave, just on a different scale. The next thing that happens, well, what happens when you put your drink with ice into the sun for too long? That ice melts. Now, that's the common problem that we're seeing, is that in the polar regions of the Earth, the ice is melting due to all the new levels of sun that we're receiving because of all the pollution in the air. So when the ice melts, the water levels rise. which means that coastal cities are now going to be completely underwater. So the ice melts, turns into water, sea levels rise due to displacement. Essentially, that means that coastal cities are going to be underwater if this continues. If all of the ice in the poles melts, eventually some of the land that we know to be existent today will be underwater, just inevitably. But there's a few things that we can do about that. A, plant more trees, because trees absorb all the sunlight as food and therefore use it to make oxygen for us to breathe. And then we release that. And then we use that oxygen. So it's a much better way and use of the sunlight than just putting it back up into the atmosphere where it can't do any good for us. So today on Earth Day, definitely plant a tree if you want. It'll help out a lot and it'll really make a difference. So don't think that planting trees doesn't help, because it does. Another thing that you can do is support different brands that use that money to plant trees. So I'll link some of those brands down in the description below. I follow a couple of them that are currently collecting for tree planting projects. So 10 Tree is doing a project right now. The Great North Apparel, I'm sure, is going to be doing some awesome stuff. I saw H&M sent me an email about all the stuff that they're doing to be more eco-friendly and environmentally conscious. So there's a lot of different brands that you can contribute to that are doing their part. I think what's really rare about this time during this pandemic is that it's kind of a pivot point for us. As you've seen, a lot of businesses are changing the way that they work in order to create PPE and hand sanitizer and all of these things that are so necessary in order for us to stay healthy. And I think that they could do the same thing for our planet as well. They could look at their production lines and look at all the different steps of that production line and make changes accordingly at what they think that they can do to be more environmentally conscious. They could be looking at their packaging. Instead of using plastic, why not use organically sourced materials? Why not use bamboo packaging? And I think that now is the perfect time to be making those changes if they have the resources available. Unfortunately, during this time, there's a lot of businesses that are going to be going out of business because they just don't have the resources that they need. And I think that being environmentally conscious does not automatically have to be associated with being expensive. There are many ways that people can cut costs in order to be more environmentally conscious. So yeah, talk to your local business owners. See if there's anything that you can help them with. Help them research different things that they can do in order to be more environmentally conscious. Packaging is a huge part of that. A lot of the packaging that we're seeing is all plastic, and plastic does not degrade. It does not die in landfills. It stays with us for hundreds of thousands of years. That plastic is going to be around when our grandchildren are born. Think about that for a minute. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is I wanted to give you guys a few tips and tricks of stuff that you can do while you're stuck at home in order to be more environmentally conscious. Look through your closet. See stuff that you want to maybe send to a thrift store. See stuff that maybe you want to give to relatives or friends, or maybe you want to donate to homeless shelters. During this time, people are very vulnerable. People don't have clothing. People don't have homes. They don't have food. Look through the stuff that you have and see what you can do in order to help them out. Another thing that you can do today is start a garden. If you don't already know, I myself am starting to work on my spring garden. So I'll link that down below, and I'll also probably add a tag somewhere on the screen. Right now I'm planting all sorts of carrots and lettuce and onions and rosemary and all sorts of fun stuff from seed, and that's a very new experience for me. I've never tried planting anything from seed, so it's going to be very interesting to see the way that these guys grow. Some of them that are already starting to sprout, which is just amazing to me. And honestly, gardening is so therapeutic. I worked at the New York Botanical Gardens last summer, and it was just the best experience, and just being around that environment all day just makes you feel good. It makes you feel better. Being around all that life is just seeing everything thrive makes you want to thrive, and it's just such an important part of the way that humans work. So yeah, that's another thing that you can do. Yeah, maybe just to reevaluate the way that you shop. Consumerism is a huge contributor to climate change. Just in general, whether it be apparel, whether it be the way that you shop for cars, just be very conscious about the way that you shop. Honestly, just do more research. Just look up climate change. Look up all the things that you can be doing in order to help. One thing that has been very interesting for me to see is all the rumors about how this pandemic got started. People were and seeing just people's surprise when they realized that people in China still do eat things that we don't here in the US, and just to shed some light on that. A while back in my conservation biology class at school, we were talking, every Friday we would look at a different endangered species, one of which was the pangolin. I will insert a picture right here. A pangolin is a very adorable animal that is very much endangered. It eats all sorts of things, from insects to bats. Personally, I suspect it could have very well been the culprit for COVID-19, because even though pangolins are very much endangered, there are people who still illegally kill these animals and sell them on the black market. They sell them for medicinal purposes. In China, the pangolin scales are considered to have medicinal purposes, although there's no evidence to back that up in the science community. And yeah, just do your research. Look up all these different endangered species that are still being hunted today. Kind of brainstorm ways that you can help. There's a lot more endangered species out there than just elephants and rhinos. And there have been much, much more endangered species killed off by humans than any other force of nature. And I think that's something that we need to start paying attention to. So happy Earth Day! If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe for more content every Tuesday and Thursday sometimes if I'm really on a roll, but it's been kind of hard stuck in the house not to make videos, so that might change as time goes on. Make sure to comment down below if you liked this video. If you didn't like this video, then let me know and tell me what I could have done better to make it better and more entertaining for you. Happy Earth Day. Go take a walk. Love you guys so much, and see you next Tuesday. Bye!